can't, in business, go at things alone.
I don't think we are very good at celebrating our highs.
Every business, in my eyes, is a people business.
The first hire we made in the US was a managing partner because we were like, sorry, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
The first people that left the business, it like killed my little soul. Honestly, I was devastated. I never get up in the morning and just go, oh my God, I don't want to go into work today.
Welcome back to Have You Heard, the social media podcast brought to you by The Social Shepherd. I'm Jack, one of the co-founders here at The Social Shepherd.
And I'm Zoe. I'm the other co-founder here at The Social Shepherd.
Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning.
How you doing?
It's early.
Good. So this one, obviously a few personal stories we can touch on this one, but biggest lessons we've learned whilst growing the business in our 20s. I'm unfortunately not in my 20s anymore. I just want to touch on that. But for the majority of the business, I was in my 20s.
So I was 23
You're still in your 20s.
when we started the business, I believe.
Yeah, 23 and I was 25.
Yeah.
I believe, coming probably towards the end of my 25th year. But lots has changed through that period, as we know, as we've sort of documented through these podcasts and other pieces of content. But yeah, I wanted to touch on the lessons we've really learned through that of growing what is now a business of what was two of us, now to 65, two different locations, across two different countries, UK and America. It's not been straightforward. From the outside, it might look like it's been straightforward, but it certainly hasn't. I think the first point that I wanted to talk about is you can't, in business, go at things alone. And I think 2 points I want to make within that as well is, one, I think I've really valued the idea of a co-founder. There's a lot of content out there that goes, no, don't have a co-founder.
And a lot of content is like, don't work with your partner, as well. But I mean, I would echo that too. I don't think the business would be where it is today. I don't think I could have done this on my own. I think we both kind of share that sentiment. That's not to say that having a co-founder and, having a partner that's also your co-founder at the same time, that's not to say that doesn't come with its own set of challenges. But I think the challenges the positives have outweighed any challenges or negatives that we've come across from that perspective. And we've done it for 5 years now, so we're in a really good rhythm and we have really separate roles and stuff like that. But it is lonely, even with a co-founder. It is a lonely place to be.
That's the important thing though that you just mentioned there is different skill sets and different roles. Don't go into a business with a friend just because they're a friend and it's a laugh to work with them. If you share very similar skill sets, be complete opposites in your skill sets and bring something of value differently, because that was what really will allow you to thrive rather than compete against each other and butt heads. You can allow each other to I trust your opinion.
I mean,
you're in charge of that.
Actually have a rule now, we will not bring any friends into this business. And that's...
Or as clients as well.
Just to flag. But we... you worked with quite a lot of friends earlier on in your career and sometimes it went well, sometimes it didn't go so well. And I think the most important thing is that you don't want to lose a friendship out of that. And you're not always going to do that, but I would say just tread very carefully. And again, I think people could say the same about working with a partner as well, but just tread carefully. And if you're going into it because you're friends, not because you have complementary skill sets, because you've got a business that's a valid idea, because you respect that person's approach and how they handle things, you can't just do it because you're friends or just because you're partners.
I feel like too many businesses start that way, unfortunately. And whilst it can be great, there has to be set rules and reasons why that person is the right person. Yeah,
and you are going to bicker and argue and disagree about things. But I think that's the thing is that too many people these days are uncomfortable to disagree with one another. And provided you're being kind and respectful towards one another, disagreements are good because it means that both people are passionate about their point. And I think going into a business, particularly if you're going to want to scale it quickly, it's not easy. It is lonely. There are going to be pressure points. It is difficult, but the reason that it's balanced us out is that everyone in this business knows that we are very different in terms of temperament. I am go all the time. It can be quite highly strung, if I do say so myself at times, which is, I've definitely learned to balance and cope with it. But you are much more like considered, a bit calmer in certain aspects. And it balances itself out like that.
They both come with their pros and cons.
They do.
As well. The second point I really wanted to touch on, which I guess is in the realms of that first point of don't go it alone, not just with a co-founder, but every business in my eyes is a people business.
Yeah.
The ability to bring in talented people, build a culture, is so important in any business, because the biggest businesses alone, there have been some exceptions. Instagram sold for $1 billion with 8 people, but most businesses require lots of people working consistently at a thing for a very long time, and then different skill sets that all accumulate and combine together to create some magic. But I said this to you yesterday, like, I feel like at this point it's somewhat of a recruitment
I know.
business.
Well, an agency is, and I think completely agree with that point that people are so important. But when you have a service-led business, if you have a law firm, if you have an agency, my mind's gone blank, but a service-led business, yes, it sounds so cheap to say almost, but your people are your product, and therefore you need to have the best in the field. And bringing on those people, and like you said, respecting your culture, like not kind of letting that falter because of business requirements is really important. Like, I think one of the key learnings that we've had, and I say this really respectfully, completely, but is to hire quicker. And, when someone's not a right fit, is to fire quicker too, to be entirely honest. Respectfully, of course, and make sure everyone's given a chance. We aren't maybe as cutthroat as other agencies are in terms of firing. And I think that's a good thing because we're compassionate. We are very kind. And I think I want to continue that. I think that's so important. But one thing that is a really bad place to get to is bringing negativity into the workplace, because negativity breeds. Positivity breeds equally as well. So what are you bringing to the table every single day? Are you someone that people see on the meeting invitation and go, great, I'm so happy that person's in that meeting because they're going to bring energy, they're going to like help us get through this? Or, oh, all that person does is bring problems to the table with no solutions. And I think that really is what our culture is defined upon, and we're really trying to grow that. I think the other thing to just raise is, like, as a founder, you are going to go through confidence knocks, and being kind to yourself, but not letting those confidence knocks alter your view or your vision of what the culture of the business should be. Do you know what I mean? You still need to find those moments to be strong when you need to be, and be able to make those judgment calls in a good frame of mind. Yeah.
That was one of my other points I wanted to ask you is, how does someone growing a business handle, I guess, the highs, but also the lows? I think is, for me, it's about how can you balance everything. So highs you don't go on a mad one because you had this massive high and that you've won this client or you've done this thing. Don't let that take over and distract you, but also don't let the lows distract you, and try and remain calm throughout and remain that sort of balanced whatever happens. I know that is almost saying emotionless to some degree, and I don't mean emotionless, but I've always learned that through listening to people who play poker. I've played poker for many years and stuff like that. Just and they always talk about, don't let the wins take over, but don't let the lows.
And the latter is harder, to be entirely honest. Like, I don't think we are very good at celebrating our highs, particularly us two. Like, we'll get to a point, like, I remember a couple of years back, we won a huge client, and we were really like, it's amazing that we did that, and we still retained them. We've grown with them and have done such a good job. By the time we got to winning that client, it wasn't like excitement that packed in. It was just pure fear of, how are we actually going to do this now? And I think, like, when we won Large Agency of the Year last year, there's so much going on in our minds. Like, it was like okay, we won this award. I had a little cry at the ceremony, and then it was the next day. It was like, okay, we've got to keep going now. And I think the reason that the highs haven't taken over from us and we haven't gotten complacent is because we know that we're trying to achieve so much more than we've already achieved. But that's not to say that we shouldn't be better at taking a moment and like reflection. And
do you think the reflection should happen now though, or do you think it should happen in 20 years time?
I mean, I think it aids the business growth and it aids us are better personally to having the reflection further down the line. But that's not to say that you shouldn't be kind. Like, I think we could be better being kinder to ourselves in certain areas. You know, like we'll sit in our board meetings with like our non-exec chairman and he'll be like, guys, this is amazing. And we're like, yeah. Like, but it's because we know so much more is going to happen. And I think that's so important. But in terms of the lows, like the lows feel a lot. Like they come thick and fast. Sometimes you don't see them happening. And I think you build up resilience over time. And so what would have felt like soul destroying 4 years ago doesn't feel soul destroying now, and you get used to that. And I think something that we'll talk about at some point is like it's a little bit of a taboo topic, and you don't really tend to hear people talking about this when they're in the business. They tend to talk about it on reflection, but when people leave businesses, and I think whenever the first people that left the business, it like killed my little soul. Honestly, I was devastated. And that's not that I'm devastated when people leave now, but I understand more so that, you know,
all you've ever known at that time is to be with
that person. And I think, you know, it's our first business, so we haven't been through this before. And I think it's not that you are annoyed at that person. You're just like, you almost take it a little bit personally. Like, oh, what did I do? What could I have done better? And like, you're quite hard on yourself with it. And that's not to say that we don't reflect now, but I think you get used to understanding that like everyone is an individual and everyone has different motivations for work. Like some people are financially motivated when it comes to work. Some people really take purpose from their work, and some people work is just a means to fulfill their purpose outside of work. Does that make sense? So you get to know everyone on an individual basis, and it means now that if after 2.5 years someone wants to go in-house or wants to have a career change or something like that, we're not sat there like, obviously we're sad about it, but we really wish them on their best. Not that we didn't before, just to clarify, but we're like, oh, we're really gutted that we're losing you, but if this is what's right for you, then like we absolutely celebrate it. We'll champion you from afar. Like, let us know if we can support in any way type thing. I think you just build up resilience. And so that's an example of a low, something that would have felt like a really big low 4 years ago that is still a low now, but it's something that we're able to handle. It doesn't feel as big, if that makes sense. But I will say, like, growing a business and scaling a business is not for the faint-hearted. I think it will definitely be a challenge on you, both like mentally and emotionally. And I think the biggest thing is that if you need to keep going. Like if you wake up in the morning and you were just like dreading going into work, then it's I don't think it's the right business for you. I would never, no matter how many meetings, no matter how long my day ahead is going to be, I never get up in the morning and just go, God, I don't want to go into work today. Yeah. Like I love it.
You need to know what you want, which I know is not the easiest thing to do, because there's no shame at all in someone growing more of a lifestyle business.
Exactly.
There's a small 10 to 20 person team. It's
like,
highly
don't
profitable.
feel like the pressure,
people.
like this whole like hustle culture of like, you've got to grow, you've got to do this. If you don't want to do that, then don't.
Yeah.
And the same way, like with your career, if you don't want to be an MD or a CEO or a head of department one day,
don't say you want to do
Don't say you want to do it just because it's expected. But equally also like align your expectations of your business or your career with what the amount of effort and the amount of like from your life that you're willing to give to it. Like we and I think it's been easier for us to sacrifice in certain areas because we've always had a partner, we've always had a friend and one another whilst we've been doing this, so it hasn't necessarily felt as lonely if we were doing it on our own. But if you're not willing to turn around and say, okay, I know I'm going to sometimes have to work a 12-14 hour day to get to here, to grow a business of high, like quickly, do you know what I mean? And to do that at speed, it's factual. As the owner, you're going to have to, that you're going to be spinning multiple hats. And if you don't want to do that, that's absolutely fine. It doesn't make like that person A better than person B just because they've got different ambitions from life. Like absolutely not. But don't expect to do, don't expect to put an average amount of effort in and have a non-average outcome from it. Does that make sense?
100%. Any other lessons?
I say this all the time when we do these about sleep. Like, I'm not gonna lie, and I'm still working on it to this day. But like, it's just so important.
And health in general, I guess, not just sleep. But
Jack is on like a health is wealth drive at the minute.
Right, yeah, nutrition is definitely being talked more and more and more.
Like
and more
clean
about
eating and like looking, and like the thing is that even like I'm 28. I'm not an old lady or by any means. I'm going to sound like it when I say this, but like people at the age whenever we would have like gone out, if that makes sense, or like drank alcohol and like they're just doing that significantly less. Like people are looking after themselves a lot more.
To fuel your body
in the correct way.
You wouldn't expect, fuel a machine with rubbish and then get great outcomes.
And you need cognitive function. Like you need to be able to like if you're making decisions on
20 decisions a day.
Exactly. Basically. And you're just exhausted. It is so important. I think the other thing to flag is there that your rest is also part of your well-being. And that doesn't necessarily mean that like, I'm not turning around and saying that we're going on 3 holidays a year because we don't, to be entirely honest. Like we've gotten a really good rhythm. We go on 1 holiday a year. We take a couple little mini breaks for long weekends. And that works really well for us. But like I was actually speaking to someone that one of my dad's best friends who owned a business and sold it about 10 years ago now. And he said that he was like, how are you doing this? Like, I know what it feels like to run a business. Like my health will never recover from the stress of running a business. And I was like, yeah, I can probably understand that, to be entirely honest. Like, but we're working through it. Like we're getting better at it and we're knowing ourselves better. But he said that he and his co-founder one day just sat down and went, let's just work 4 days a week and let's just do it. And it's no questions asked. You take a Thursday off, I take a Tuesday off. And we'll do that. And he said that really helped them, and it meant that they were able to, they had families and children at that point as well. So I'm sure that feels much different whenever you have a business. But like he said that's whenever they finally started to feel some level of balance. I want to caveat that by saying I think if you're going to own a business and you're going to want to get it, above the point that the average business gets to, balance is going to be a tricky thing to get, and you're going to have to, some months you're going to have your balance is going to be completely skewed towards work, and some months you're going to be like, okay, this is a lot more manageable now.
Depends where your business is at though. If you have a full management structure, MD in role, and you're playing more of a strategic part, I think that actually works.
I think it's a long
journey to get to a place where you have a full management
But you have to be willing to do the work to get there in the first place. To actually
build a team.
Yeah. But we've learned that, like, the first hire we made in the US was managing partner, because we were like, sorry, we're not doing that again. And we'd done the work to be in a position where we knew what we needed from that person, and she's great and is doing a great job. But I feel like I've diverted completely. What was the original point?
Well, I asked you first. What was your final lesson?
It was health and sleep and stuff like that. And just, I think, I don't know, I do think trusting your gut is like a massive one. Like, we've gotten much better at this. And I did say this a couple of years ago in one of these, but like things will happen. And I'm like, I knew that was going to happen. Like if I just trusted myself in that moment, and we've gotten so much better at that. But I think that really comes into play when you're thinking about like people. Like your gut is always right about people, whether that's like a new business lead where you maybe don't think that that's going to go quite the right way, or that's going to be quite difficult to work with that, or whether that's team members. And that is so crucially important. Like you want to have positive people that are going to encourage those around them, that are going to support those around them, and not just like expect support from others, but that are also going to support those, if that makes sense. So like a lot of people will come in to work, and not in this business, we've done a very good job of kind of like aligning expectations, but I feel like a lot of people go to work and they're like, well, what are they going to do to support me? not what am I going to do to support them, because it's a two-way street. And I think that's like the line of culture that we're really trying to run. And I think our learning has been to just consistently stay true to that and trust your gut and know when, if something is going to make you compromise on your culture, then it's probably not worth it, to be entirely honest. Yeah, I think just keep going. And if you don't love it, don't do it.
Wise words. Perfect. That's a lovely way to wrap up. Thank you very much for joining me today, Zoe. And thank you all for listening in, tuning in wherever you are. Wherever you are, make sure to subscribe and follow along. Thank you very much.
Bye.